Yellowstone may be done, but Taylor Sheridan still seems to have endless avenues through which to spread the disappointment. Landman, luckily, gave us a really solid first season. But most of Sheridan's shows tend to give us a good first season. And I felt the same about the first season of 1923. As I said, it was decent, but it had some pretty ridiculous moments in it. Now, with season 2 of 1923 having come to an end, I can still say that the show was ridiculous, but I can no longer say it was decent. With Sheridan's trademark writing that drags scenes out 2 to 3 times longer than they should be, random CGI animal attacks shoehorned into the story to make up for the lack of actual, meaningful action and conflict, and storylines that were stretched out as long as they could possibly go to fill time, 1923 seems to have gotten the Yellowstone treatment in season 2. A season built on the promise of Spencer Dutton's heroic return to the ranch to turn the tide of the family's land war and lead them to victory, actually ended up being 6 episodes of Spencer and his wife's separate journeys to Montana, where they smashed face first into every roadblock imaginable on their way home. In the meantime, life at the ranch was bogged down in a harsh winter for the entire season, leaving the central characters there to do fuck all for 6 episodes. So cue the aforementioned animal attacks, a bout with rabies, and the big bad villain spending his time developing Montana's skiing industry just to give all these characters something to do. In a show like this, with a lot of separated characters, the story is just the totality of all the storylines it presents and how it weaves them all together and brings them home. And with that understanding, it's easy to see how this season's story is undoubtedly its weakest aspect. Every storyline this season was either ridiculous or ridiculously weak. So rather than bore you to tears and run down this season's plot, instead I'll break down each central character's storyline through 6 episodes, and it'll be abundantly obvious which ones were ridiculous and which ones are weak. So spoilers on the horizon. Starting with Spencer, who we were promised was coming home this season to single-handedly propel the Duttons to victory over the wealthy, land-grabbing Donald Whitfield, Spencer actually just spent 6 damn episodes traveling home. And 5 of those episodes just covered him getting from Galveston, Texas to Amarillo, Texas. You know, I can appreciate the portrayal of how risky and daunting it was to travel across the country at this period of time. But what the fuck does Spencer's wacky road trip have to do with the show's main story, other than to blueball us for 90% of the season and make up for the bare-bones writing Sheridan probably turned in for this show? Spencer spends the first episode aboard an Italian ship, working his way across the Atlantic, where he stops an Italian sailor from getting butt-raped and participates in a fight club. After he barely makes it off the ship that carries him to Galveston, he gets pulled in by the local Italian mob and forced to run booze for them. He bails on this when he runs into the first police checkpoint, loses his Italian companion in the process, and then the cops force him to run the booze as part of a trap laid for the recipients. Next, he has to kill 2 train-hopping transients, and then exits the train that was headed in the direction he was traveling. Then he gets picked up by a marshal for having the audacity to sleep under a tree.
I thought this was America! Huh? Isn't this America? I'm sorry, I thought this was America!
And she detains him until she can suss out his identity. With that sorted out, he's finally, seemingly, on his way home scot-free. And that took 6 episodes. 6 episodes where we're seeing the main hero stumble and bumble his way home. The kind of thing that no one wants to see this character doing. He's supposed to be the hero, riding in on a white horse to save the day, but instead he's fighting off train bums and saving Italian bums, getting detoured at every possible turn. And his wife Alexandra's journey from England to Montana made his trip look like child's play. Pregnant and eager to rendezvous with her husband Spencer, she leaves behind her cushy life in England, bound for the unforgiving Montana. After crossing the ocean in the steerage of a ship, she arrives on Ellis Island, where she gets insulted by Border Patrol and subjected to medical inspection like cattle. Then she gets robbed of all her money in the train station and just avoids being assaulted by the man because she was too skinny. She then gets on board the train where she's forced to work for her supper, assaulted, digitally assaulted, almost robbed again, detained for beating her assailant, and ultimately forced off the train to plead her innocence. Once she's free of that, her next train trip is cancelled due to the snow, and she's taken in by a British couple who gets the bright idea to make a road trip to take her to Montana. But then the British couple freezes to death, yet somehow she survives, and she's left all alone in the frozen wilderness of Wyoming or Montana. And that's what she did for 6 episodes. It's less frustrating because her part in the story isn't as important as Spencer returning home, But did we really need 6 episodes of her playing boats, trains, and automobiles while she dodges robbers and rapists? Jake Dutton, played by Harrison Ford and billed as the main draw for this series, really didn't do much. At all. He did something of mild consequence in episode 2, and that was about it. He's just kind of hanging around for the most part. Across from him, Helen Mirren's Kara character just did some cooking in between administering rabies shots and doling out nuggets of pseudo-wisdom to characters too dumb to figure things out on their own. And all the while, with the Duttons bogged down in the throes of winter and their hero getting waylaid on his way home, what is the big bad villain doing at this time? Is he shoring up his support and manpower? Mustering a force to deliver the kill shot to the Duttons and take the land he so covets? Fuck no. He sees some Norwegians skiing down a hill and spends the rest of the season trying to turn that into a business. And when he's not doing that, we're subjected to seeing 79-year-old Timothy Dalton engaging in multiple BDSM sex scenes. Yeah, that's what people want to see. Meanwhile, his right-hand man, Banner, is just following him around like an aw shucks puppy the whole time. I shouldn't have to say it, but this is not what your villains should be doing. We need to feel that they're serious threats to the Duttons, and that if the family doesn't muster up the strength to fight them, then they're done for. Seeing Whitfield kill a hooker during BDSM is sadistic, but that doesn't translate to us fearing for the Duttons' safety, land, or livelihoods. We're just forced to hang on to the threat the villains presented in the first season, because nothing they did in season 2 ever makes you feel like the Duttons are in real danger from them. Elizabeth gets bitten by a wolf during one of those random CGI animal attacks, and as such she has to be treated for rabies, with shots administered to her stomach daily. This compounds upon everything else she hated about Montana in the winter, and she becomes determined to leave her husband and return home to Boston. Ah yes, Boston, famously known for its temperate winters. And after 5 episodes of this, she finds out she's pregnant, and now everything's wonderful. And her husband doesn't do shit for 6 episodes, until he wanders off after being told not to 4 times and gets unceremoniously gunned down without a fight like a dog. A whole other storyline, completely unrelated to everything else, follows a murderous marshal from Montana and a frog priest who are hunting down a Crow native, Tiana Rainwater, after she killed some nuns and ran away last season. The marshal guns down and runs down every native in sight, to a comical, mustache-twirling degree, and after murdering roughly a dozen natives and native children, he kills one more in a gunfight, and this one killing, which was actually the most justified of all his killings, randomly sets off the priest, who in turn guns him down. The priest still wants to bring in Tiana though, so he finds her, kills her dad, but he fails to kill her just because his gun is empty, leaving her to kill him. And the whole show is narrated by Elsa from the 1883 series, who constantly brings up rape during her monologues. To the point that whoever is writing this, whoever that may be, seems to harp on this topic to a questionable degree. The winds of winter rape the body as well as the soul. Elsa's just a meme at this point. And all roads led to the finale, which was certainly the best the show had to offer, but you wouldn't be blamed for tuning out long before we got there. The planned 8th episode release date got cut before the season ended, so they just slammed it all into episode 7, giving us a 1-hour, 50-minute finale. And by the end of it, you realize that episode 1 and episode 7 could have been the entire season without losing anything. In the finale, the shooting finally started, with half of Whitfield's men assaulting the barebones retinue left at the ranch, and his other men loitering around the train station to ambush Spencer. Spencer makes it to the train station, but not before luckily finding his long-lost wife, freezing to death, no more than 10 feet off the tracks his train was on. How lucky. He then leaps off the moving train and rescues her, although all she can greet him with are insults. And she survived because after 2 days in the snow, she got the bright idea to make a fire. Go figure. And all we got from the big bad villain in this episode were more BDSM scenes and business dealings. Meanwhile, we got some real exciting stuff watching Harrison Ford waiting around for a train.
It's late.
Yep.
Spencer's train pulls in, everyone starts shooting like the train station is in the south side of Chicago, and Banner has a come-to-Jesus moment and saves Jacob, but then takes a bullet for it from the sheriff and dies. And during the whole gunfight, Harrison Ford's character Jacob just remains stationary in the middle of 20 bad guys, not getting shot, and getting bailed out by everyone shooting the bad guys for him. And, you won't believe this, but the good guys win. Back at the ranch, we continue that ridiculous gunfight, complete with things like unlimited ammo everyone is apparently pulling out of their ass, and 20 guys retreating from 4. Then Spencer returns to the ranch and kills 9 guys with 8 shots in about 25 seconds, like the Superman-esque character these 2 seasons have built him up to be. At some point, all of this gets interrupted to jump all the way over to the oh-so-important Tiana Rainwater, who pulls a gun on and shoots a marshal's deputy, and the woman marshal shows her mercy for no reason. And later, her court case gets thrown out entirely, despite her killing 6 people, one of them a completely innocent deputy. Back to the important stuff, Spencer then heads to the hospital to find his wife has given birth to their son 3 months early, and she's refusing care for her frostbite. And just in case you were worried that her wacky road trip of unfortunate events was over, it's not. She dies. Now, somehow, in an incredible leap of illogic, Spencer blames Whitfield for Alexandra's death, so he and Jacob go shoot him dead and set his mansion on fire. And the whole season ends with life carrying on at the ranch, which is safe for a little while longer now. And if all that wasn't ridiculous enough for you, there are some select scenes that take the season even further over the top. Like when Harrison Ford strolled out of the house to find a cougar on his porch. Or when wolves attacked Elizabeth. Or how about that time a wolf ate a nurse sleeping on their couch alive? And who could forget the Italian sailor getting butt raped?
He was raping him.
It's true?
Or Timothy Dalton's multiple BDSM scenes. Or the marshal needlessly running down an Indian boy. Or the mafioso menacingly pulling the trigger on an empty revolver 6 times at Spencer. Or Alex's 6.5-minute naked medical exam. Or how about using your rabies shot to guilt trip your husband?
Jack, you should step out.
No, let him watch.
Or this stormtrooper tier accuracy. Or Helen Mirren being the ranch's most cold-blooded killer.
Of all the things I've had to do for this ranch, takes a bloody kick.
In short, I didn't like this season. After the first season was palatable, 1923 is now following too closely in the footsteps of its wayward cousin Yellowstone. The season came out swinging too. Episode 1 was just a collection of ridiculous scenes strung together. It was barely watchable. It calmed way down by episode 2, but the story remained a snooze fest through episode 6. Simply put, the vast majority of season 2's story was just not what people are looking for in a show like this. People want to see conflicts over the Dutton Ranch boiling over. They want to see Western bravado and thunderous gunfights. Not 2 people stumbling across the countryside, completely devoid of agency over their travels and just getting tossed around by others, and the weather. And if wasting 6 episodes on these 2 getting home wasn't bad enough, Sheridan's trademark style of just dragging scenes out to their absolute lengths reared its ugly head once again, amplifying the shittiness with every extra second of screen time. You could just feel everyone on set trying to make the bare-bones script they were given work within the hour time slot. Nearly every scene was 2 to 3 times as long as it should be. And not only does it make the show feel like wasted time, but it's incredibly awkward to watch. The subject matter of the scene will reach its climax, as will the building music. And then, it just keeps going. The character keeps doing something well past the point of getting the scene's point across, then the music gets dragged out as well, and you just feel kinda dead inside. It's soul-sucking shitty storytelling. It's nice to have plenty of opportunities to pull your phone out, but that's about all it's good for. Combining all this wasted time through stretched out stories and elongated scenes, with the premature cancellation of the final episode and its conclusion being tacked on to episode 7, we're just not getting the amount of story people should expect from a full season of a show. And perhaps all could have been forgiven if during Spencer and Alexandra's misadventures, anything of interest was happening at the ranch. But all they did back home was bitch about winter and free one guy who was arrested for race mixing while the big bad tried to break into the travel and leisure business. Not exactly the kind of blood-raising story you're looking for in what should be a high-tension Western drama. The finale was better than everything leading up to it, and it was much closer to what people want from this show. But but like I said, you'd be hard-pressed to even make it that far with how boring the rest of the season was. Now, how did people like the second season? Well, it's got a 47% from fans on Rotten Tomatoes, down from the 53% season 1 got. It's down on Metacritic too, but there aren't enough reviews to draw a real conclusion. Even with a lackluster outing though, 1923 has been a ratings success, pulling in a roughly 50% increase in viewership over the first season. And you know, somehow though, the critics' ratings for the show went up across the board for this season, and at first that kinda puzzled me. But then I put 2 and 2 together and realized that this season really ramped up the perversity, the plight of the woman, and even threw in a handful of lines praising women as better than men. So that rise in critics' ratings tracks. Personally, I'd give 1923 Season 2 a 3 or 4 out of 10, pushing the series into hate watch territory. If I wasn't laughing at the absurdity of what was happening on screen, I was pretty bored for the rest of it. Most of the points this show does get in my book just comes from the scenery, the time period, and the production quality. But if it came down to just storytelling, I'd probably give this season a 1. This is supposed to be an explosive prequel, chronicling the harrowing tale of how the Duttons have been fighting for their land for generations. But all I really learned about the Duttons is that you can't trust their travel plans, and CGI animals were more of a threat to them than any human ever was. All the focus on how harsh the winter is in this part of the country and how difficult it could be to travel at this point in time is good flavor, but it's just that, flavor. It's just supposed to be the backdrop for your story, but Season 2 of 1923 made it a story in and of itself. And as was obvious with this, the weak storylines, and the dragged out scenes, just like with Season 5 of Yellowstone, the amateur level writing just doomed this show. What did you think about Season 2 of 1923? Did Yellowstone's collapse and faceplant in its final seasons sour you on the brand as a whole? Or were you hopeful that 1923 could build on its first season? Let us know in the comments below. And remember to like the video if you liked it, and subscribe to Hate Watchers for reviews of other current shows and movies. Thank you for discussing rapists, robbers, race mixing, and rabies with us today, and we'll catch you on the next one.